The smell hit Kong Minho first. It was the smell of fear, sweat, and something worse. Something that reminded him of old meat left too long in the sun. He pulled his jacket closer and walked faster through the crowded market of station. KOR Wrath-7. He had not planned to come this way. He needed parts for his ship, the Dawnbreaker. A simple job. Buy the parts, leave the station, forget this place existed. But the main roads were blocked by some kind of parade for a Nexari merchant lord. And now he was stuck walking through the slave market. Minho hated this place. He hated everything about it. Around him, beings of all shapes and sizes stood on raised platforms. Some were small and thin, with big eyes full of tears. Others were large and muscular, their spirits broken long ago. Chains connected their wrists and ankles. Numbers were painted on their chests. They were not people here. They were products. The buyers walked between the platforms like shoppers in a store. They pointed at bodies. They checked teeth. They squeezed arms to feel for muscle. They talked about prices the same way Minho talked about engine parts. A Nexari merchant with 4 arms and skin like wet leather called out to him. Human? Looking for workers? I have strong ones. Very cheap today. Minho did not answer. He kept walking. Humans were still new to the galaxy. They had only been traveling between stars for about 200 years. Most alien species saw them as strange creatures. Emotional, sentimental, weak in ways that made no sense. What kind of species wasted resources on the sick and old? What kind of species felt bad for strangers? The other species did not understand humans. Minho was fine with that. He was almost through the market when he heard the commotion. Shouts, the crack of electric whips, the sound of chains dragging on metal floors. He should have kept walking. He knew that. Nothing good waited for curious people in places like this, but he stopped. He turned. He looked. On a platform near the back of the market, 4 handlers were trying to control a single slave. She was Ricari. Minho recognized the species immediately. Tall, reptilian, 4 arms. Scales that should have been bright red, but were now dull and gray from poor health. The Ricari had once ruled a great empire. They had conquered dozens of worlds. They were born for war, but their empire had fallen 5 years ago. Now their warriors were scattered across the galaxy. Many had become slaves. This one was fighting, even with chains on all 4 arms. Even with a shock collar around her neck, she refused to kneel. A handler hit her with an electric whip. She made no sound. He hit her again. Still nothing. A 3rd handler activated her shock collar. Her body shook with electricity, but she stayed on her feet. Ow. The head handler screamed. Kneel, you stupid animal. The Ricari female looked at him with yellow eyes full of cold fire. Then she moved, fast. Faster than something so starved and beaten should be able to move. She grabbed one handler with her lower arms and threw him into another. A 3rd handler went down when she kicked his legs out from under him. The 4th one finally hit the collar button long enough to bring her down. She fell, but she did not kneel. She fell forward onto her hands, holding herself up. Refusing to let her knees touch the ground, the crowd watching began to laugh. Defective. Someone shouted, broken goods. Another yelled, the auctioneer, a fat Nexari with golden rings on all 4 hands, waddled onto the platform. He looked at the Ricari with disgust. Yes, she is damaged, he announced to the crowd. Former military. Too much fight left in her. We have tried to train her, but he shrugged all 4 shoulders. Some products are simply bad. I will sell her for almost nothing. 100 credits. A gift, really. Who wants a Ricari pet? More laughter. But no one raised their hand. No one wanted a slave that would not obey. A slave that fought back was worthless. Worse than worthless. Dangerous. Minho should have left. He told himself to leave. His crew was waiting. His ship needed repairs. He had no room for a slave. No use for one. No desire to own another living being. He turned to go. Please. The word was quiet. barely a whisper. But somehow Minho heard it through all the noise of the market. He turned back. The Rakari female was looking at him. Only at him. Her yellow eyes locked onto his human eyes, and something passed between them. Not words. Something older. Something that did not need language. She crawled forward. The chains dragged behind her, scraping against the platform. Blood dripped from wounds on her arms where the handlers had hit her. She moved slowly, painfully, until she reached the edge of the platform. Then she spoke again. "Please buy me, human." Minho did not move. "I will serve," she continued. Her voice was rough, damaged from screaming, or from the collar, or from both. "I will fight for you. I will die for you. I will do anything you ask." She paused. Her eyes never left his. "Just not here, please. Not like this." The handlers laughed. The auctioneer laughed. The crowd laughed. But Minho did not laugh. He saw something in her eyes. Not desperation. Not madness. Something else. Something he recognized. It was the last small piece of dignity that a person holds on to when everything else has been taken away. The final thing that makes someone a person and not just a body. She was not begging for her life. She was begging for her death to mean something. Minho thought about his grandfather. The old man had fought in Earth's last great war, long before humans reached the stars. He used to say that you could tell everything about a person by how they faced their end. Cowards begged. Fools fought without reason. But the truly strong? They found a way to make their last moments matter. This Rakari was not broken. She was just looking for something worth her final battle. How much? Minho heard himself say. The market went quiet. The auctioneer blinked all 6 of his eyes. "Excuse me?" The Rakari. "How much?" 100 credits. As I said. But human, she is damaged goods. She will not obey. She will cause you nothing but trouble. Minho reached into his jacket and pulled out his credit chip. 100 credits. He walked to the payment terminal and pressed his chip against it. The transaction completed with a soft beep. Just like that. 100 credits. Less than the cost of a good meal on most stations, the auctioneer handed him a chain connected to the Rakari's collar. "She is yours. Do not blame me when she kills you in your sleep." Minho took the chain. He walked to the platform and looked down at the Rakari female. She stared up at him, waiting. Expecting orders, expecting pain, expecting the same cruelty she had known from every other master. "Can you walk?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Then let us get out of here. I hate this place." He did not pull the chain. He simply turned and started walking toward the exit. After a moment, he heard her footsteps behind him, slow, unsteady, but following, as they left the slave market. Minho wondered what he had just done. He had no plan. He had no idea what to do with a Rakari warrior. He only knew one thing for certain. He could not have walked away. That was the human problem, he thought. Humans could never just walk away. The Dawnbreaker was not a beautiful ship. It was old, patched in dozens of places, and made strange noises when it flew. But it was home to Minho and his small crew. It had carried them safely through space for 6 years. Today, carried something new. Lee Sora was waiting at the cargo bay door when Minho arrived with the Rakari. Sora was his engineer, his oldest friend, and the person most likely to tell him when he was being stupid. Right now, her face told him everything. "No," she said. "Sora, no. Absolutely not." "Are you insane?" Behind Minho, the Rakari female stood silent. She had not spoken since they left the market. She simply followed, watching everything with those yellow eyes. "She needed help," Minho said. "She is a Rakari warrior." "Do you know what her people did during the war?" "They burned entire planets. They ate their prisoners." I know what they did." "Then why is she on my ship?" Minho did not have a good answer. He looked back at the Rakari. She stood perfectly still, waiting for whatever would happen next. Her face showed nothing. No hope. No fear. Just empty patience. "Because she asked," Minho finally said. "And I could not say no." Sora stared at him for a long moment. Then she threw her hands up and walked away. Muttering about stupid captains and their stupid decisions, Minho led the Ricari into the ship. They passed through narrow hallways lit by old yellow lights. They passed the engine room, the small kitchen, the crew quarters. Finally, they reached an empty cargo bay at the back of the ship. "This can be your space," Minho said. "It is not much, but it is more than I had." Her voice surprised him. It was the first time she had spoken since the market. He turned to look at her. "What is your name?" he asked. She was quiet for a moment. "Vale. I was called Vale. Vale. I am Kong Minho, captain of this ship." He paused. "I need to remove your collar." "Hold still." He reached for the shock collar around her neck. She flinched. It was a tiny movement, barely visible, but he saw it. She expected pain. She expected a trick. "I am not going to hurt you," he said softly. He found the release mechanism and pressed it. The collar fell away with a click. Red marks circled her neck, where the metal had rubbed her scales raw. Vale touched her neck. Her four hands moved slowly, feeling the bare skin where the collar had been. Her eyes went wide. She looked at Minho like he had done something impossible. "I do not understand," she said. "Understand what? Why did you remove it? How will you control me?" Minho sat down on a metal crate. He suddenly felt very tired. "I am not going to control you, Vale. You are not my slave. You bought me. I bought your freedom." "Not you." She shook her head. The concept did not fit into her mind. "That makes no sense. You spent money. You must want something in return. What do you want from me?" "Nothing. That is impossible. Everyone wants something." Minho sighed. He had known this would be difficult. The Ricari did not understand kindness without purpose. Their entire culture was built on strength and exchange. You gave something. You got something. Everything had a price. "Listen," he said. "When we reach the next human port, you can leave. Walk away. Start a new life. I will not stop you. If you want to stay on this ship and work, I will pay you the same as any crew member. But you are free. That is the only thing I am offering you. Freedom." Vale stood frozen. Her forearms hung at her sides. She looked lost, confused, like a child trying to solve a puzzle that was too hard. "Why?" she whispered. "Because no one should be in chains." She stared at him for a long time. Then, slowly, she sank to the floor. She sat with her back against the wall and closed her eyes. Minho thought she might be crying, but Ricari did not have tears. Instead, her shoulders shook silently. He left her alone. The next few days were strange. Vale stayed in her cargo bay most of the time. She came out only to eat, taking her food back to her room like a wild animal protecting its meal. She watched the crew constantly, waiting for the trap that she was sure would come. Beak Junho, the young pilot, was the first to approach her. Junho was 23 years old, full of energy and curiosity. He had never seen a Ricari up close before. "Hello," he said, standing at the door of her cargo bay. "I brought you some extra food." The captain said, "You are not eating enough." Vale looked at the food in his hands. Then she looked at him. Her eyes were hard, dangerous. "What do you want?" "Nothing. I just thought you might be hungry. You are not afraid of me?" Junho thought about the question. Should I be? I have killed hundreds of beings. Maybe thousands. I do not remember the exact number anymore. "Oh." Junho nodded slowly. "Well, I once crashed a shuttle into a space station by accident. We all have our things." Vale stared at him. She did not know how to respond to that. Junho put the food down on a crate and sat on the floor across from her. What was it like? Being a warrior, I mean. The Ricari were famous for their battles. "It was all I knew," Vale said slowly. "I was born for war. Trained from birth. I knew nothing else." "That sounds lonely." She looked at him sharply. No one had ever described her life that way before. Glorious, yes. Terrifying, yes. But lonely? "I had my soldiers," she said. That is not the same as having friends. Vale did not answer, but something in her expression changed. A crack in the wall she had built around herself. Meanwhile, Sora kept her distance. She did not trust Vale. She made that clear to anyone who would listen. She is waiting for the right moment, Sora told Minho one night in the engine room. One day she will decide we are not useful anymore, and she will kill us all. You do not know that. I know what Rakari are. They are weapons. You cannot make a weapon into a person just by being nice to it. Minho put down the tool he was holding. She is not an it, Sora. She is a she. And she is a person. A broken one, maybe. But still a person. Your kindness will get us killed. Maybe. But I would rather die kind than live cruel. Sora had no answer for that. Days passed. The Dawnbreaker flew through hyperspace toward human territory. Slowly, very slowly, things began to change. Vale started leaving her cargo bay more often. She watched Junho pilot the ship. She watched Sora work on the engines. She listened when Minho talked about their next job. She said little, but she was present. One evening, Minho found her standing at the observation window, looking out at the stars. It is beautiful, she said without turning around. I never noticed before. I was always too busy fighting to look at the stars. Minho stood beside her. What will you do? When we reached the human port, she was quiet for a long time. I do not know. I have never been free before. I do not know what freedom looks like. Looks like whatever you want it to look like. She turned to face him. Her yellow eyes studied his human face. You are strange, Kong Minho. Your whole species is strange. You take in broken things and try to fix them. You show kindness to those who have done nothing to earn it. I do not understand why, Minho smiled. We do not understand it either most of the time. We just do it anyway. Vale looked back at the stars. Perhaps I will stay. For a while. To understand, you are welcome to stay as long as you want. That night, for the first time since coming aboard, Vale slept without nightmares. The chains were gone. The collar was gone. And somewhere in the darkness of space, she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could become something new. New Busan was a small colony on a green world at the edge of human space. It had farms, simple houses, and about 3,000 people who wanted nothing more than a quiet life. The Dawnbreaker arrived there on a sunny morning to deliver farming equipment. Vale stood at the cargo bay door and watched the humans unload their supplies. Children ran between the adults, laughing and playing. Old people sat in the shade and talked. Families worked together in the fields. They have no weapons, Vale said. Minho was beside her, checking his delivery list. They are farmers. Why would they have weapons? Because the universe is dangerous. Someone could attack them. They have a small militia, and they trust that no one will bother such a small colony. Vale shook her head. In the Rakari Empire, every settlement was a fortress. Every citizen was trained to fight. The idea of living without constant defense was impossible to understand, but these humans seemed happy. Strange and foolish, but happy. The attack came that night. Vale was in her cargo bay when she heard the first explosion. Then screaming, then the sound of energy weapons firing. She jumped to her feet and ran to the cockpit. Junho was already there, his face pale with fear. Pirates, he said. A whole fleet of them. They came out of nowhere. Through the cockpit window, Vale could see the chaos. Ships were landing all around the colony. Figures in dark armor poured out, shooting at anything that moved. Buildings burned. People ran. Minho's voice came through the communication system. He was somewhere in the colony with Sora. Ginho, get the ship ready to fly. We need to evacuate as many people as possible. Captain, there are too many of them. Just do it. Vale watched the battle through the window. The colony militia was fighting back, but they were badly outnumbered. The pirates were Nexari mostly, with some hired mercenaries. They were not trying to destroy the colony. They were capturing people. Taking them alive, Slav. Something dark and hot rose up inside Vale. She knew what would happen to those people. She knew the markets. She knew the chains. She knew the caller. "Where are the weapons?" She asked Junho. "What? The weapons? This ship must have weapons somewhere. There is a locker in the cargo bay." "But Vale, you cannot," she was already gone. The weapons locker was small. A few energy pistols. An old rifle. Some knives? Nothing compared to the weapons she had used as a commander of the Rakari fleet. But it would have to be enough. Vale armed herself. 2 pistols in her upper hands. The rifle across her back. Knives in her belt. She walked to the cargo bay door and pressed the button to open it. The night air was full of smoke and screaming. She could see pirates dragging colonists toward their ships. Children crying for their parents. Families being torn apart. She thought about staying on the ship. She owed these humans nothing. They were strangers. Their problems were not her problems. She could stay safe, wait until the attack was over, and fly away. But then she thought about Minho, the human who had bought her freedom without asking for anything in return. The human who had removed her collar. The human who had treated her like a person when the rest of the galaxy treated her like garbage. He was out there. Somewhere. Fighting. Maybe dying. Vale stepped off the ship and started walking toward the battle. The first pirates did not see her coming. She moved through the smoke like a ghost. 1 shot. 2 shots. 3 bodies on the ground before anyone knew what was happening. Then they saw her. Rakari. Someone screamed. "There is a Rakari." Panic spread through the pirate ranks. They had heard stories about Rakari warriors. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories. The red demons who ate their enemies. The 4-armed killers who could not be stopped. Vale proved the stories true. She moved through the pirates, like fire through dry grass. Her 4 arms let her shoot in multiple directions at once. Her training let her dodge attacks that would have killed any normal being. Years of war had taught her exactly where to hit, exactly how hard, exactly when. She was not fighting for conquest anymore. She was not fighting for an empire. She was fighting for something new, something she did not fully understand yet. She was fighting for people who had shown her kindness near the center of the colony. She found Minho and Sora. They were hiding behind a burned building with a group of colonists. Sora was injured, her arm bleeding badly. Minho was holding a small pistol, trying to protect the group from 3 pirates who had them surrounded. Vale came up behind the pirates. She did not use her guns. She wanted this to be personal. The first pirate died before he could turn around. The second managed to scream before her lower arms broke his neck. The third tried to run. He did not get far. Minho stared at her. "Vale, you need to move. More are coming." Yes, you are right." He helped Sora to her feet. "Everyone, follow the Rakari. She will protect us." The colonists looked at Vale with terror in their eyes. She was covered in blood. Most of it was not hers. She looked exactly like the monster from their nightmares, but Minho trusted her, and so they followed. Vale led them through the burning colony. Every time pirates appeared, she dealt with them. She took hits that would have killed a human and kept fighting. One of her arms was broken. She ignored it. A shot burned through her side. She ignored that too. Pain was just information. It could be processed later. Near the landing pads, they found a group of children hiding in a storage building. The pirates had not found them yet, but they would soon. "Take them," Vale told Minho. "Get them to the ship. I will hold the pirates here. You cannot fight them all alone." "Yes, I can." She looked at him. "Go, now. This is what I was made for." Then he nodded and started gathering the children. Junho arrived with the Dawnbreaker, landing close enough for everyone to board quickly. Vale stood in the doorway of the building and waited. When the pirates came, she met them with everything she had left. She lost track of time. She lost track of how many enemies she killed. At some point, her rifle ran out of power. She kept fighting with her pistols. When those were empty, she fought with her knives. When the knives were lost, she fought with her bare hands. The pirates broke. They were not prepared to fight a Rakari warrior. They were slavers, not soldiers. They came for easy prey, not for a battle. One by one, they retreated to their ships and fled into the sky. Vale stood alone in the smoke and fire. Her body was broken. She had wounds in places she could not count. But she was alive, and the colony was saved. She collapsed. When she woke up, she was in the medical bay of the Dawnbreaker. Minho was sitting beside her. Sora was there too, her arm wrapped in bandages. Even Junho was watching from the doorway. "How long?" Vale asked. Her voice was weak. 2 days, Minho said. "You almost died. 3 times, actually. Sora kept bringing you back." Vale looked at Sora. The engineer who had hated her, who had called her a weapon, who had said she could never be trusted. Sora looked away. "Do not make it strange. I just did not want to explain to the colonists why we let their hero die." Vale tried to smile. "It hurt." Minch-Own leaned closer. "The colonists want to thank you. You saved dozens of lives, maybe hundreds. Doing what I know how to do, you did more than that. You could have stayed safe. You chose to fight for people you did not know." He put his hand on her uninjured arm. "Welcome to the crew, Vale, for real this time." For the first time in as long as she could remember, Vale felt something warm in her chest. It was unfamiliar, strange. It took her a moment to recognize it. It was belonging. She closed her eyes and let herself rest. Outside the ship, the people of New Busan were already telling stories. Stories about the Rikari warrior who came out of the smoke, the monster who fought for humans, the demon who protected children. They did not understand her, but they would remember her, and for Vale, that was enough. 6 months had passed since New Busan. The Dawnbreaker continued its work, carrying cargo across the galaxy. But things were different now. Vale was not a passenger anymore. She was part of the crew. She had learned to help with repairs, using her forearms to reach places humans could not. She had learned to cook, making strange Rikari dishes that Junho pretended to enjoy. She had even learned to joke, though her sense of humor was still dark and confusing to the others. Most surprising of all, she and Sora had become something like friends. They argued constantly about the right way to fix things, but underneath the arguments was a growing respect. Sora had saved Vale's life 3 times on New Busan. That created a bond that neither of them talked about, but both of them felt. One night, Minho found Vale alone in the observation room. She was staring at the stars again, but her expression was troubled. "Something is wrong," he said. She did not look at him. "I received a signal today. Old Rikari military encryption. Only a few people in the galaxy know that code." "What did it say?" "It is a distress call. From survivors of my old fleet." Minho sat down beside her. He waited for her to continue. "I was a commander," Vale said slowly. "I led thousands of warriors. When the Empire fell, many of them were captured or killed. But some escaped. They have been hiding ever since, hunted by the new galactic government as war criminals. And now they are calling for help. They are dying. Their ship is damaged. They have nowhere to go." She finally looked at him. "I know what my people did during the war. I know we destroyed worlds. I know we caused suffering that can never be forgiven. But those warriors, they followed me. They trusted me. And I left them behind." Minho understood. This was about more than just rescue. This was about guilt. About the past. About who Vale used to be. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I do not know. Part of me wants to ignore the signal. That part of my life is over. I am someone new now." She paused. "But another part of me cannot forget. They were my responsibility." Minho was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up. "Show me where the signal is coming from." "Minho, this is not your problem. I cannot ask you to. You are not asking. I am offering." He smiled. "That is how we do things on this ship. We face problems together." The journey took 3 days. They flew into dead space, far from any trade routes or colonies. It was a perfect hiding place for people who did not want to be found. They found the Rikari ship drifting near a small moon. It was badly damaged, barely holding together. When Vale sent a response to their signal, the channel exploded with voices. Some were crying. Some were laughing. They could not believe she was alive. The Dawnbreaker docked with the damaged ship. Vale went aboard first, with Minho close behind. What they found made even Vale stop. There were only 12 survivors. 12 out of the thousands who had served under her command. They were thin, sick, broken. Their scales had lost all color. Some were missing limbs. They looked at Vale like she was a ghost returning from the dead. One Ricari stepped forward. He was taller than the others, with deep scars across his face. "Commander Vale, we thought you were dead, Torek." Vale recognized her former second-in-command. "I was sold to the slave markets. And yet you are here, free, with a human ship." His yellow eyes moved to Minho. "What is this? Have you become a pet to these soft creatures?" Minho felt the tension in the room rise. The other Ricari were watching closely, waiting to see what would happen. "I am not a pet," Vale said. "I am a member of his crew. He freed me. He showed me kindness when the rest of the galaxy showed me chains." Torek laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Kindness? Since when do Ricari care about kindness? We are warriors. We take what we want. We do not beg for scraps from weaker species. Those ways destroyed us, Torek. The Empire is gone. Our people are scattered and broken. Maybe it is time to try something different." "Different?" Torek stepped closer to her. "You have changed, Vale. The commander I knew would never speak like this. The commander I knew was strong. I am still strong. But I have learned that strength is not the only thing that matters." The two Ricari stared at each other. Years of history passed between them. Battles they had fought together. Worlds they had conquered. The rise and fall of everything they had known. "I had hoped," Torek said slowly, "that when I found you, we could rebuild. Take this ship. Gather more survivors. Start again. Reclaim our glory." "And then what? Fight until we are all dead? Kill more innocent people? Create more enemies?" Vale shook her head. "I am done with that life, Torek. I will not go back. And you are a traitor." Vale saw the attack coming. Tariq was fast, but she had trained him. She knew his moves before he made them. He swung with his upper right arm. She blocked it with her lower left. He kicked at her legs. She jumped over it. He tried to grab her throat. She caught his wrist and twisted. They fought in the narrow hallway of the ship. Forearms against forearms. Years of combat experience against years of combat experience. The other Ricari watched in silence. This was not their fight. This was between commanders. Torek was desperate. He fought with the rage of someone who had lost everything and refused to accept it. But Vale was different now. She fought with calm, with purpose. She was not trying to kill him. She was trying to stop him. In the end, she won. She had Torek pinned against the wall, her hand around his throat. One squeeze, and he would die. One simple motion, and the fight would be over forever. She let him go. Torek fell to the ground, gasping for air. He looked up at her with confusion and anger. "Why? Why did you not kill me?" "Because that is not who I am anymore." She stepped back. "The humans taught me something, Torek. They taught me that mercy is not weakness. Kindness is not foolishness. There is strength in choosing not to destroy. It is impossible. We are Ricari. We are made for war. We are made for war. But we can choose to be something else." She turned to the other survivors. They were watching her with different expressions now. Some still looked angry, but others looked curious, hopeful even. "I cannot make you come with me," she said. "I cannot force you to change, but I can offer you a choice. Come with us. Work with us. Learn what I have learned, or stay here and die clinging to a past that no longer exists." The silence stretched on. Then, one by one, the survivors stepped forward. 8 of them chose to come. 4, including Torek, chose to stay behind as the Dawnbreaker pulled away from the damaged ship. Vale watched through the window. Torek stood at the airlock, staring back at her. She could not tell if his expression was hatred or sadness. "Do you think they will survive?" Junho asked. "I do not know," Vale said. "I hope so." Even Toric. Why? He tried to kill you. Vale thought about the question. Because he is what I used to be. And if I can change, maybe he can too. She paused. That is what the humans have taught me. To hope for things that seem impossible. Minho put his hand on her shoulder. You did the right thing. Sparing him, it did not feel right. It felt hard. The right thing usually does. The 8 Ricari survivors settled into the cargo bay. They were quiet, uncertain, watching everything with suspicious eyes. They would need time. They would need patience. They would need to learn, just as Vale had learned. But for the first time in years, Vale felt something she had never expected to feel again. She felt like a commander. Not of an army, not of a war, but of something better. Something that built instead of destroyed. And that, she realized, was the strongest thing she had ever been. 1 year had passed. The galaxy had changed. Stories had spread across the stars. Stories about humans who treated aliens with dignity. Stories about second chances. Stories about a Rackery warrior who had been bought in a slave market and became a hero. The Dawnbreaker was famous now, though Minho still insisted they were just a simple cargo ship. Humanity was no longer seen as just a young, emotional species. They had become something else. A symbol. A question. What if the old ways of doing things were not the only ways? The Galactic Concord took notice. The Concord was the closest thing the galaxy had to a government. Representatives from 100 species met together to make decisions that affected everyone. For 2 centuries, they had refused to give humans a seat at the table. Humans were too new, too weak, too strange. But now, things were different. The Concord had voted to reconsider, and they had invited a delegation from Earth to make their case. They had also invited Vel. She stood in the entrance hall of the Concord, building on the neutral world of Axis Prime. The building was enormous, designed to make visitors feel small. Representatives from dozens of species walked past her, most of them staring. A Ricari in a human delegation. The irony was not lost on anyone. Minho stood beside her. How do you feel? Like I am about to vomit. That is normal. I feel the same way. Sora was there too, her arm fully healed now. She had complained about having to wear formal clothes instead of her engineer uniform, but Minho had insisted. This was important. They needed to look professional. JUNHO had stayed with the ship. Someone had to keep an eye on the 8 Ricari crew members who had joined them over the past year. They were slowly adapting to their new life, but they were not ready for something like this. A Nexari official approached them. The council will see you now. The Ricari female will speak first. Vale's hearts were beating fast. All 3 of them. She had faced armies without fear. She had fought in battles that would make most beings collapse. But this was different. This was not about strength or violence. This was about words. About truth. About changing minds. She walked into the council chamber. The room was circular, seats rising in levels all around a central platform. Hundreds of delegates watched as she took her place in the middle. Eyes of every color and shape studied her. Some with curiosity. Some with hatred. Many of the species here had suffered under Ricari conquest. They saw her scales and remembered pain. A voice came from the raised platform where the council leaders sat. You are Vale, former commander of the Ricari 3rd Fleet, responsible for the conquest of 7 worlds, the death of millions. Is this correct? It is correct, murmurs ran through the chamber. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned forward with interest. And now, you speak for humanity. You ask us to welcome them into the Concord. Why should we listen to anything you have to say? Vale took a deep breath. Then she began, I was born to be a weapon. From my first day of life, I was trained to kill. I knew nothing else. I wanted nothing else. For decades, I served the Ricari Empire. I conquered worlds because I was told to. I killed millions because it was my purpose. I never questioned it. I never thought about the suffering I caused. They were just enemies. Just targets. Just obstacles. The chamber was completely silent. When the Empire fell, I was sold. My own leaders sold me to pay their debts. I became property. I was beaten. I was starved. I was put in chains and displayed in a market like an animal. Everything I had believed in, everything I had served, abandoned me without a second thought. Her voice grew stronger now. I expected to die in that market. I expected to be bought by someone who would use me until I broke, then throw me away. That is how the galaxy works. That is how I believed all beings worked. Take what you can. Use others for your benefit. Strength above everything. She looked at the human delegation, at Minho standing straight and proud, at Sora trying to hide her nervousness, at the other humans who had traveled across the galaxy to be here. Then a human bought me, and everything I believed was proven wrong. He did not chain me. He did not beat me. He did not demand obedience. He removed my collar and told me I was free. He offered me food and shelter without asking for anything in return. He treated me like a person when I had forgotten what that meant. I did not understand. In Rikaria culture, kindness without purpose is foolishness. Mercy is weakness. Compassion is a flaw that gets you killed. I waited for the trap. I waited for the cruelty to begin. I waited for the human to show his true nature. She shook her head slowly. It never came. Instead, he showed me patience. His crew showed me acceptance. Slowly, over months, they taught me something that my entire civilization had failed to understand. They taught me that strength is not just about conquering others. It is about lifting them up. It is about seeing value in beings who have nothing to offer you. It is about choosing kindness when cruelty would be easier. The chamber remained silent. Some delegates were leaning forward now. Others had strange expressions on their faces. Not anger, something else. I have conquered worlds, Vale said, her voice rising. I have broken armies. I have done things that can never be forgiven. But I was defeated by a single human who refused to see me as less than a person. And that defeat changed me more than any battle ever did. She stepped forward, looking up at the council leaders. You ask why you should listen to me? You ask why you should welcome humans into the Concord? I will tell you why. Because they see something that most of us have forgotten how to see. They see potential. They see the possibility of change. They look at their enemies and ask, what if things could be different? The galaxy has always worked on fear. Stronger species dominate weaker ones. Power is the only thing that matters. We have fought wars for thousands of years. We have destroyed worlds. We have created suffering beyond measure. And what has it given us? More fear, more war, more suffering. Humans offer something different. Not conquest, but cooperation. Not dominance, but partnership. Not the old ways of strength, but a new way of connection. She turned to face the entire chamber.